Well, we're back here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and here's the Kodem Zivug Mekabel Zir Anpin Mochim Chadashim Ma'olim now. So we discussed in detail what's really going on in the Nesira, and we have Nesira happening at different times of the day. Here we're talking about drushos of the night. We're talking about what's going on here. Let's see if we can understand what's going on. So reading a little bit at the top, they begin, says, the Kodem Azivug Makabel Zer Anpin Mochim Chadashim Ma'ulim. It gets a new mochim, but they're going to be a higher quality mochim. So let's just read this little bit here, number Kaf Test, and then we'll go down below and start picking up. Because we discussed here in detail what's going on in terms of the Dormita. So we just had that in this Shaar on Purim. It's going back over there. It seems a really important idea. The Nitna de Nukva. So he says, if there's no mochin in him, how does he make a yichud? Because you need mochin for yichud. So let's look down here in the light bin. The chayra kosher. There's a problem here. Dormita. At the time the Zah is in deep sleep. And we know that this is a time right now coming up to Purim. The Molchim come out of Zer Anpin and they are given to the Nuk. So now furthermore, we want to say, how is it possible that the Zer Anpin can make a yichud without Mochim? Going on. Aka Inyan, who the Inyan is like is ki osem amochem b'rishonim shohoya lo al yedei ha'nai the tevuna, the nai utvuna came into Zer Anpin. Heim shenistalko b'meda v'nitna the nukva, they are exactly those mochin that were taken out of him and planted as a result of that. But these are the female, these are from tevuna, the female aspect, entering into Zer Anpin. Now come out, but what happens is that after this, and the Mochim come out, Zer Anpin goes to a higher place, and then come into him from that higher place, because she's clinging onto him on his backside. But in the Sira, before she became separated and became independent, let me see if I can get this right. There was a portion of the Mochel Zer Anpin, the Roy, the Chagdila Nukva Negeba. Niknas the Chila Tok Zer Anpin, V'achar Kach Yotzech HaBa'or, B'tocho Derek Nekiv Achrei HaChoz L'chutz. B'oinach HaKelech HaBishal the Nukva, and it builds Kalim for the Nukva. V'hoise Hit Tzricha L'kabel V'liyonek B'beno. She has to get this. And she receives it from him, but she's not able, she has to get it from Zer Anpin to grow completely. So then comes the surgical removal of Chava, so to speak, from Adam Arisha. Baal Nesira. So let's go back and he says Hashem Elokim means Abba Ve'ima, he says. El Hanekeva Atzma Shalo Ayedei Zer Anpin, not using Zer Anpin Kenizker, not through Zer Anpin, but directly. Vayedei Kain Nigdulu Ba'o the Kalim Shalo, so the causes the Kalim, her Kalim to grow further. The Naasis parts of Shalom, she becomes a complete partzim, Shalo Ayedei Zer Anpin, without needing Zer Anpin. So now that she's grown, now she can come around to the man, Panim B'Panim and his Davgo Yachad, and they make a complete and total union. Now let's go over here and let's see what we could pick up right here in the Tivuk Hakavnot. Says he's explaining this in a running commentary on what we're talking about. He said, Tekilim Kodem and the Sirach Umabedas Rachel Ach Ba'achim Zer Anpin, she's on his back. And then the Mochim spread into Zer Anpin, they're coming from Abba Ve'ima. So he takes for himself those Mochim which build up his form, which is as a partzuf. Whereas we see that portion that's going to go into the Nuk, and this is how her basic structure, which I imagine is from Rosh Sof in 3 lines, and now the shofar has to go through him now. She's not able to get really tall. She gets just a taste of it. The most part of it Zeranpin still has. So let's go to the next light print. In order for her to be able to really grow, she has to get direct shefa from Ima. So now he says the Nasira takes place. So what happens? The Mochin come out of the Nai of Yasos, the Nai, the Devuna, he puts them two together. So both the male and the female aspect that came into Zer Anpin, both of them leave Zer Anpin, mitoch Zer Anpin. But only the Nai of Ima, which is another way to say to Tavuna, that goes directly into the No. And now we see that she's able to get Mochin directly without going through Zer Anpin, Ella Me'ima Mamish, but from Tavuna, which is Ima Mamish. The parts of Shalem, Bain as spheros, now she becomes really built into 10 spheros now. So the pas of V'yivim Hashem Elokim es Atzela. Who's Atzela? We said previously, that's the Nuk. Asher lokach min Adam the Isha. So he took something that was inside of the man and he gave it to her. This is a completely, this is a deep, like you saw this understanding of what's actually got, putting the things together. Again, he says V'yivim Hashem Elokim, which is Abba V'ima, he said previously. As Hatzela, the Tzela is the Nuk. That he took this from what's originally inside of Zer Anpin and put it in her. The Havayahu Abba, and the Elokim is the Ima. The Hamochim, the Abba, the Ima, Haboinim as Hatzela, that's what builds up this Tzela, this female aspect. She Hanuk, which is the female, the cautious of the word. You had a problem here? Hare rak hamochin the abba niknasim bo. He said hare rak hamochin. I think it's supposed to be the ima niknasim bo. Ye'un shefa kavonas. He's going to talk about that. I think that's a misprint, but I'm not always right. So let's so I think let me go back a little bit and see if I can find the shefa. It came on that. A little shefa on that. Okay, so let's see the shefa. Whoa, there is no shefa. That was it. Oh, if I got this mixed up. So this is page Kuf, and this is page Kuf Aleph. I got two. I still didn't get it right. So let me see. So this is Kuf. So I need to go to Kuf Aleph here. Okay. Let me see how this works. So let's see. Now we saw that in the original part. I think maybe. Okay. So I'm sorry. I have to backtrack. I am a little off balance. So let's see how it goes. Number Kaf Ches. So he says in the light print. Now her backside has now been completely rebuilt. He says, "V'nishlabel the Eser Sephiros," and she had become complete. She now has 10 Sephiros. Chosrin zun panim bepanim, then zun go panim depanim. V'nishachim lechem hamochin depanim, and mochin depanim now are extended, are flow down into them. Now this is an important idea. V'nimshachim lechem mochin depanim. Before they had mochin de acharaim, and we're going to see. I think he's going to have in the shefa something to help us out here with this. V'nasa zivug, and as a result of the mochen deponim, because now we say not only do you need mochen, but you apparently, to make the complete zivug, you need mochen deponim, which is a mochen of kindness, of really, the face of Eric Anpen. Because of this, and because of Yaviru Adam, that she then is brought forth to the man. Hainu panim bepanim, that means face to face. For the achar mekan nizdavgu kumosha kasa for ha'adam yoda, because then they make a yichud, and this is the das brought everything down as chava ishto. Now let me see if I can get back to there's a little trouble because I have these printouts. It's not exactly like using a book, so I got a little mixed up here. So let's go down to the bottom. Let me see if I can get a little bit of. There we go. So he says. Va'achar shenigdod v'yaviru ala adam panim bepanim nizdavgu yachad. Yesh devar v'divrei Rav kan b'shnei derachim. Now he wants to go into say that what Rav is saying like this about this yichud that he's talking about. There's two different ways to look at it. Ha'echad kepeshuta. One is according to its simple meaning. Divrei Rav kan b'shinui derachim. So he said, excuse, I started misread. The koy al hamshachas hamochin upon him. So it talks about the flow of mochin that come off of the face. And this is the complete ultimate yichud for the purpose of growing and actually reproducing. So after you finish the whole nesira, that's what it says. The muk comes back face to face. The nimshachin the mochin depanim lezun, and the mochin depanim them come from zun. But here, what are we talking about? These are drushim on the nighttime. Those we're looking at. So he said, Leah, who is a yichud between Yaakov and Leah at midnight. And before that time, there was no Nasira. That's one way of looking at this. So in other words, the yichud is taking place at nighttime. That's what we're talking about. There's a Nasira that takes place. Let me read that again. I think of Kodem Lo. I read it wrong. And before this, Na'asis and Nasira, and the Nasira has already been made. Now looking at this in another way, Yesh Devoyer, you can explain this also. Again, Kosev of Shem and Sason. Shem and Sason gets into this. And who else? Some other names, the Sada, B'Shari Rachamim, Chelik Beis, Tshuva Yadal. He says, so he said, they say like this. Let me see if I get this right. There's the Sada, B'Shari Rachamim, etc. Shabias Anuk Lifponim B'Ponim, that the coming of the Nuk Liponim B'Ponim, took into that situation where she's facing him. And also the Yichud that we're talking about can. This is not talking about the ultimate Panim B'Panim. Which actually will bring us to birth, the birth of all the shefa, the bracha that we need in the world. Now he says, let's go over this again. Ella Amadubar Khan, he says, is not the ultimate yichud, that is reproductive. Amadubar Khan, who ala zivug the bia rishona, the first time, because there's a via that comes before this, hana'asa b'chatzas alayla, which takes place at midnight. So even zivug zera b'vucher b'richos, the command, we're going to get that more. She'olim zun l'cheik abba v'ima, that what happens here is this is a preliminary yichud, where zun do not have all of the great mochem that they need in order to make the ultimate yichud. But first, because they need a kli. You need a kli and the ability to be able to breathe into that kli, so to speak. Sha'olem zun l'chek abba v'ima, which is a place where all that mochem of panim are located. Sham ondim panim b'panim is davkim, and there's a yichud that takes place. So let me just read this. I don't know if I read it in the Tiv or not, but I want to say it. V'im tomer, if you say it like this, how can you make a yichud if he gave his mochin away? Hikshach mefarshim. So there's problems here in the Govi and other places. Because really, he says the kusha really can't understand it. What does he mean? The Halam Bavor Lokaman explains the Dormita Na'asis Rak Ad Chatzos Alayla, only until Chatzos Alayla. In other words, the Dormita, that is the Nasira, takes place before. That's what he says. But then after that time, he says after that time where there's a Nasira and, I don't know, a Yichud, we just have two different versions of the Yichud, that's only until midnight. Then you're going after Chatzos Alayla. The Mochim go back to where they were. That Bereisha de Zer Anpin, all of the Mochim are now back in the Reisha de Zer Anpin, and Mizdabing im Hanuk, and there he makes a Yichud with the Nok. Became Nimsa Shebe'ez Zivug. So it comes like this: the time that the Yichud takes place, which is at Chatzos, which is B'Chatzos Alayla, Gavar Chazrach of the Mochim de Zer Anpin already has the Mochim back inside of himself again. So the Rav is saying, how is it possible to make a yichud without the mochin? He already has the mochin, because it says that in order when the Nasira takes place and she comes upon him, the mochin come back into him. The Seventh Sosa adds like this: this is exactly what the Rav is trying to say. The Mochim come back to him at Chatzos Alayla. Before, the first part of the night is dark. But the Mochim come back at Chatzos Alayla, Kodem V'Zigul, and they come back before the Yichud takes place. There's other answers on this. It has a little bit of problems. But anyway, that's it. This is Shaar for today.